Hey everyone, welcome to this weekly Sidereal Astrology forecast for the week of April 21st to the 27th of 2025. All right, so this week we have the ending of the current lunar month. We have a new moon on Sunday in fiery Aries, forming a T-square up to Mars and Pluto. In fact, this is a week of that T-square. We do have the sun coming off of a square with Mars from just last Sunday. We've got Wednesday, the sun squaring up to Pluto, and then of course the new moon activating it as well. So squares all are about empowering ourselves and taking action. They do end up being the most constructive phases of any cycle, really. The most action-oriented phase, the tire meets the road phase. But with these, it can be a bit spicy. We've got fiery Mars and deep and transformative Pluto as part of this T-square. So it is really good to find healthy and constructive ways to, first of all, assert ourselves early in the week as we're still coming off of that sun square Mars. How can we express ourselves, assert ourselves, take action in ways that are constructive and intentional. On Wednesday, when the sun squares Pluto, perhaps allowing for a little bit of non-attachment, can allow for some of these perhaps changes or things that we really do want, but might require maybe facing some fears or again empowering ourselves. So that's definitely, and then Saturday Mars will be opposite Pluto right before that new moon. So it's definitely the main theme of the week here is with that T-square. But on Thursday we do have Venus conjunct Saturn for the last time. This has been going on since January 18th, and this could be perhaps a new constructive beginning with our values and relationships. Taking on a more grounded, responsible, and steady form. All right, so let's go and take a look at all of this here in more detail when we return. Alrighty, so here's the sky for this week. We're going to look at this for each day of the week, starting first with Monday, April 21st. And as you can see here, we are using the visible sky on this channel, which is very different from mainstream astrology. You won't see the visible sky used in mainstream because unfortunately they're using a system that does deviate from that. In the West, they're using a seasonal system, which is completely based around the seasons, but not the actual location of the planets. So if you are new to this channel, and especially if you're hearing a lot of the sign changes are different, like Pisces and Aries being different planets, definitely check out that link down below for more information. All right, so let's do a bit of a recap because we do have coming right into the week, the sun leaving Pisces, leaving that watery Pisces and going into more assertive and active Aries. To place a theme on this for about the next few weeks, as Aries is a much smaller constellation. But as you can see here, it is definitely still a mix between the new fire energy of this week and the very deep water energy that we've had for many months now, at least the past couple months. So this is all these planets in Pisces. Mercury, who's recently gone retrograde, is now direct in Pisces. Venus the same, and of course Saturn's new entry as well, and Neptune's entry, who's been there for a while, and the North Node has been there for about a year and a half as well. So a lot of activity here, and we can't forget Chiron over here as well for many years. So a lot of activity here going on in the constellation of really the deepest water. We would say it is the spiritual constellation, Pisces. It's the constellation of connecting more with our soul. It's the constellation of having more peace and spiritual and mental health, well-being in our life. And so it's been a really good time for cultivating more of this healthy Piscean energy here. So it definitely is still the case, as Mercury and Venus still have a long ways to go to traverse back over where they went retrograde and through this entire very large constellation of Pisces. But with the sun entering Aries, it does shift the focus. And so while it is these themes around connecting to our soul and more peace, the focus is very likely this week going to shift into matters of taking more initiative, being proactive, and cultivating perhaps an even more independent life for us. So this, of course, happens every year. And this, we could say many do view this as the astrological new year. We could say that this is the new year astrologically, as Pisces and Aries is the beginning and the ending of the traditional zodiac in the sky. All right, but anyways, we've got that shift right off the bat there with the sun going into Aries there. So looking at the transits here, like I said, we are coming off of some of this fiery energy that maybe is a little more difficult to work with just yesterday or on Sunday, depending on when you're watching this. There was a square between the Sun and Mars, which is very cyclical. We have this twice a year. But coming off of it, it's good still on Monday to have the intention to have that healthy fire. So there's maybe that part of ourself that, really does want to express, maybe really does want to assert, maybe really does want to go after things. And that pendulum can swing very far in one direction. But of course, as all pendulums do, it will swing in the other. And so then that could mean perhaps feeling a little bit passive or passive aggressive with some things, or perhaps not feeling energized, not feeling motivated. This might be the under extreme of it. So anyways, coming into Monday, we're likely having integrated this a bit more. As I said earlier, there is still this type of energy to work with throughout the entire week with this T-square with Mars and Pluto and the Sun. But Monday, we could feel a little bit of that, all right, starting to get it, and maybe some things moving forward a little bit with that. So Monday, a good day for, again, setting that healthy intention of fire, intentionally asserting ourselves, responding instead of reacting, connecting more to our assertive and independent and proactive side in a way that's, again, very intentional. So a great way, and this can end up actually being very constructive, for particularly around that Monday and Tuesday time period. Now, the moon will be in Capricorn both Monday and Tuesday, and so this does speak to themes around responsibility, around discipline, around patience, and perseverance. So Capricorn, the sea goat, for those of you who know the constellation Saturn, it's very similar to that. And so just a theme of those couple days, anything you do want to do that would probably benefit you more in the long term versus the short term, or that will require some sense of perhaps self-discipline or patience. This could be an excellent couple days to work with that. Now, once we do get to Wednesday, the moon will shift into Aquarius, which will also encompass most of Thursday for most of us as well. And this will be joined up with that Sun squaring Pluto. So we talk about the Sun square Mars as being that fiery energy. With the Sun square Pluto, we're talking about the deeper energy. And so Wednesday is very likely to be a very deep day. Again, this happens twice a year. Anytime you're dealing with the sun and any kind of square like this, it's twice a year. So it's very cyclical in nature. But good day here for, again, that self-empowerment. Pluto can really bring deep things to the surface, both within ourselves and in our outer environment. And so what we find the best way of working with that is awareness of it, awareness of what comes in, and being willing to, constructively dive deep, being willing to see the truth, being willing to perhaps in this case express ourselves as well, even though there might be a sense of empowerment, a sense of inhibition or fear about it. So a great day for self-empowerment, a great day to really dive deep in general. Like in general, it can be really good for things like research, the occult, uncovering the hidden, again, getting to the truth of things. But again, squares are about action. So constructively and intentionally acting on this, right? So perhaps expressing ourselves, perhaps empowering ourselves, perhaps taking some action that we know is very important. Maybe it requires seeing the ugly truth of something or ourselves that we don't normally want to see. We willfully do it. And we take that action there, okay? And so if you want to work with that energy in this way, it can be, again, very constructive, very empowering, and a new chapter of depth and meaning and truth in our life, and really connecting more to our true self is, I think, really at the core of what Pluto really is about there. All right, so that's the Wednesday time period. Again, the moon in Aquarius here places a theme around perhaps the future, okay? Aquarius is very much about looking at our own future or the collective future. So midweek could be a good time for some of these aspirations perhaps. And because of that, maybe some themes around connecting to community or groups or the world at large in some sense. So Aquarius, because of that sense of vision, can really speak to that side that maybe does want to contribute or does want to be a part of things greater than ourselves. And so this could be a really good couple days to do that while we're sort of integrating this square with Pluto. All right, and as we're approaching that, once we do get to late Thursday, Venus will pass over Saturn for the last time of this cycle. This has been part of Venus's retrograde over this part of Pisces and going on since January 18th. So this is the final contact after Venus has now gone direct. It speaks to a new chapter usually in regards to both our values and also our relationships. You know, Venus is fundamentally what we value in life, and over Saturn, it can really help us have grounded values and new values that are, you know, much more mature or responsible, right? And again, grounded in nature. And so very good to set this intention and perhaps some things really solidifying there. But because our values are having a new beginning, this can very much speak to relationships also having a new beginning. And this speaks to the Libra side of Venus. And so as our values change, so do our relationships change. And so this can speak to a new chapter with, again, maturity, responsibility, and discipline in those relationships. And with its very close proximity to the North Node with all this, the theme really is on new beginnings. Conjunctions are already about new beginnings, but especially when you're dealing with the North Node conjunction as well, like this. All right, so new beginnings to our values and relationships, very likely in that grounded way, and very likely in the Piscean way, which is in a way that's perhaps a bit more receptive. You know, again, Pisces has been showing us to be a little more receptive in life lately, and to do what's soul-fulfilling, where our soul's guiding us, and to prioritize our mental health and spiritual health as well. All right, so that's the conjunction we have there on Thursday. As we do get to the weekend, the moon will shift into Pisces to complete the current lunar cycle. Again, the new moon will be on Sunday. So, you know, all weekend it's really closing things out. We're completing things, we're finalizing things from this previous very watery, very spiritual, very inward cycle, which again, we're still working with that energy and still will be for the coming weeks, but really finalizing the chapters of that from the previous 4 weeks. So great to complete, great to let the energies die down over the weekend, great to finalize, tie up loose ends, right? Let things kind of reset for those slow new beginnings coming out of Sunday. As we do approach Sunday, Mars will be opposite Pluto exact here. And so this one's more rare than the squares with the sun. So Mars's cycle is about every 2.5 years. So we would say there's roughly only about one of these every 2.5 years, the opposition at least. And so here it's about balancing that fiery energy of Mars with that deep and intense energy of Pluto. And so I find oppositions to be easier to work with than squares. I think it is about finding balance, but there can be that rift. And so it can seem that these two things are very much at odds. We might have what we want in our egos on one hand, and we might have what really needs to be done or what our true self really deeply wants, right? So you have kind of the more surface level ego of Mars, and then you've got the true self, the deeper unconscious self of Pluto. And these things being like a rift, the great thing about it is we can become very keenly aware of these two, the shadow and the ego, or the unconscious and the ego needs very strongly during this if we're paying attention to it, but it can be very strong, very illuminating. Oppositions are like full moons, they illuminate. And as a result, we can really head off in a new direction that is much more constructive with that, which again is much more empowering, much more true to what we really, really want. We strip away the ego, the unhealthy, security blankets and attachments and fears in order to get to that true Mars, that true what we want, that deeper ego, if you will, or an integrated ego, if you will, moving forward. So really good to again have that mindfulness, bridge the gap between the ego and the shadow, if you will, and set off on a new journey, because it really is the halfway point of this cycle. We do tend to pivot and move in a new direction because of oppositions. Oppositions can also speak to relationship stuff, as it's the Libra energy of opposite. And so sometimes another person or an outside situation can induce this. So again, having a little bit of healthy non-attachment, a little bit of healthy assertiveness in balance, in moderation with the opposition can be absolutely fantastic. And again, moving things in the positive direction moving forward with that. All right, so that's going to be late Saturday and then into Sunday. Again, the new moon will be on Sunday, Fresh new beginning. Yes, it's activating all this Mars and Pluto energy that we've been talking about, but it's a fresh new start with it. Okay, so setting those intentions to perhaps move forward, and maybe the next year. Again, now being perhaps the first new moon of the astrological new year, we could say that this is in many ways a great time to set yearly intentions, and perhaps intentions around this Mars and Pluto sort of energy. All right, everyone, so that's the week in a nutshell. Most important thing, closing out the current lunar cycle as we approach the weekend. We've got this Mars, Pluto, Sun T-square that we're working with, sort of integrating the Mars side of that on Monday, integrating the deep Pluto side of that here around Wednesday. And then kind of, I would say, in many ways, finalizing it around the new moon and setting a new beginning with it. In the middle of all this, we have Venus over Saturn, which is really finalizing the January 18th energy of responsibility and maturity in both our values and our relationships. And so definitely new beginning here as well. And so setting new intentions around that can be great as well. All right, so everyone have a fantastic week. Thank you so much for watching. We're not going to be having a live stream this week because of Easter Sunday, but we will definitely the following week. So do stay tuned for what is almost every Sunday. We have that live stream, and it's at 1:15 p.m. Eastern time of the Americas. So stay tuned for that next week, but have a great week, everyone. Have a great Easter if you do celebrate Easter, and I'll see you all next time for the next astrology forecast. Take care.